Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rechak, Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah. And just a bit of background at this point in time, right, when we look at the chronological map here provided by the Blue Letter. We've been going through a couple of the books of some of the contemporary prophets around this time, right, dealing with like Amos, Micah, Isaiah, Hosea, Nahum. And so let's see, where did they place Jeremiah? So we placed Jeremiah right around here. And that's some time after, Joel, Isaiah and all of them. So at this point in time, the northern kingdom had already been deported out of their land, right? You've had the different various kings reign, as we covered in the book of Kings. And now at the time of Jeremiah, right around, like 627 or so BC, you have the Assyrian Empire in terms of on the global level, at least of the known world. You had the Assyrian Empire that was beginning to wane, right, beginning to weaken right around that time of 626 on down, being plagued by civil wars and just turmoil within, which eventually led to their the fall of their capital in 612 BC. So at this point in time, this is getting close to, didn't mean to do that. There we go. So this is getting close to, let's go to Daniel chapter 7. Right, so Daniel chapter 7 and 4, right, and in this vision that Daniel received of the four beasts that he saw come up, these represented major world empires, right? And the first, as he said, was like a lion and had eagle's wings. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. So the lion with eagle's wings represented the Assyrian Empire. And this part, I beheld till the wings were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth. The wings being plucked was the point at which the transition, right, from the Neo-Assyrian Empire into the reign of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. So the wings being plucked was a symbolic for the Assyrian Empire being taken down, destroyed, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And that was the rising up of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which came to be, one of the main rulers who we now know was Nebuchadnezzar II, right? Though he wasn't the founder per se, right? It was his father, but he's one of the main rulers when you think of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. So at the point of Jeremiah, he's prophesying, and you'll notice in a part of his message, he warns Jerusalem, he warns Judah of this coming adversary or nation that the Lord is going to bring against them, being the Babylonians. All right, and this is what the Lord had showed him. Okay, so he was basically there within the fall of the Assyrian Empire into the rise of the Babylonian Empire, and that's where you have the account, because it's going to tell us, right, during whose reign in terms of the kings of Judah Jeremiah's prophecy or ministry was within. Okay, so on on a geopolitical level, you could say that's where Jeremiah is placed, and this is right sometime before Daniel gets captured, right, and basically all the books that we covered from Daniel's time on down. Jeremiah precedes that. Cool. So it says here, the words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of the priests that were in Anathoth, in the land of Benjamin. So let's pull up let's pull it up here. Anathoth Bible map. Hopefully this would be a pretty decent one if we look at the images. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's see. Is there a better one? Is there a better one? All right, fine. We can use this. Just gonna zoom in a little bit. All right. Okay, cool. So here they have highlighted here. So you can see this map of ancient Israel, and Anathoth, as it says, let me go back in here, was basically the city, right, where Jeremiah was in the land of Benjamin. And you could liken this onto the Levitical suburbs, because as we know, Levi didn't have their own land, right? It says here, a city of Benjamin allotted to the priest, located approximately 3 miles from Jerusalem, birthplace of the prophet Jeremiah. So when you look here, you won't see a portion that says Levi. And that's because, as we know, in terms of land, Levi wasn't given, like a portion divided to them. Rather, they had pieces within the lands of the various tribes, are known as suburbs, where the Levites would dwell. All right, the priests would dwell. So here we see Anathoth being one of those areas within the land of Benjamin, where Jeremiah was born, where he's from. Verse 2, to whom the word of the Lord Yahweh came in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So, in the 13th year of the reign of King Josiah, which I believe should be right around that, let's see, King Josiah should be right around that time of 620, 20 something or so. Let's see, or maybe before. So they have him here as 640 to 609, and if we look up Jeremiah, prophet. So they have him born at 650, trying to see when they would have placed his ministry to begin. Maybe I should have just looked that up. Ministry. When did Jeremiah begin his ministry? Yeah, so right around 627 or 626 BC. So in any case, it came to him, he started, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him to begin prophesying in the 13th year of King Josiah. It says, and King Josiah was the king, which, as we go into it, you'll see. So King Josiah was the king who went out against Pharaoh Necho. And at that time, when they had that battle, that was when the Assyrian Empire was pretty much on its last legs, right, at the point of its demise. And that's the reason, because they sent out for help. And that's the reason Pharaoh Necho was making his way up to Carchemish, because that's where the Assyrian forces, let's look it up here, Battle of Carchemish. That's where the Assyrian forces had retreated to. And they were being pressed by the Babylonians along with the Medes. So here, right, you had Babylon, and they took down Nineveh, they took down Haran, and the Assyrian forces were fleeing back here to Carchemish. And when they fled there, Pharaoh Necho, right around the time of right before Josiah died, actually. So I say that right around maybe 609-ish or 605, somewhere along there. Pharaoh Necho is trying to go up to defend or help in this battle here, and also try to, because remember, at this point, a world superpower, which are the Assyrians, is falling, and whoever would take them down would rise up as the next power. So the Egyptians go up, they're trying to go up, they get met here by Josiah. Pharaoh says, I'm not here for you, I don't have business with you, I have to go up to Carchemish. Josiah says, nah. So he disguises himself, and then he goes to war with Pharaoh Necho II. Josiah ends up dying in that battle, and then Pharaoh Necho continues on to Carchemish. They don't do so well over there in Carchemish, and so he comes back down. And at this point, after Josiah died, right? Pharaoh now continues to this battle here at Carchemish, which Jeremiah describes as we go into the later chapters. Israel, upon the death of Josiah, because when we pull up Josiah here, they end up setting up, I believe it was Jehoahaz, Jehoahaz or Shalom, to be the next one on the throne. He stays on the throne for a couple of months, and when Pharaoh Necho returns back to Egypt, he basically deposes Jehoahaz and takes him down to Egypt and sets up Jehoiakim, once again, one of the sons of Josiah, as the basically like a puppet ruler. Okay. And so Jeremiah is alive. He's alive during all this. I'm not going to go into full detail on this. We'll cover it as we go through the book. But as we read here, it mentions, right, his ministry began during the time of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. It also came in the days of Jehoiakim, right? He was a son of Josiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, on to the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah. So when you look at the order of the kings that reigned in that time, actually, I think the timeline might help. You had Josiah, and I don't think they placed Jehoahaz on here, so that's fine. Let's just go and look it up on here. So you had Josiah, and then after him was his son Jehoahaz, who reigned for a few months. After him was Jehoiakim, and after Jehoiakim was Jehoiakim's son, Jehoiakim, or Jeconiah. And after him was Zedekiah, who in his 11th year was, as you can see, monarchy abolished, right? When in his 11th year was when the Babylonians came there and pretty much destroyed the walls and burnt the temple and then called it a day. So, as it mentions, on to the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, on to the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month. So Jeremiah prophesied from prior to the Babylonians coming up until them basically taking over and us being tributary onto them, up until them coming and actually just destroying Judah and carrying them away captive. And throughout this time, Jeremiah is prophesying to Israel about different things, about the corruption, about how they should follow the Lord and obey the Lord's word and not resist against the Babylonians. But, you know, as he prophesied, you had even, you know, his relatives come against him. A lot of people came against him. False prophets came against him. But all in all, he had a job to do. So this is Jeremiah chapter 1, continuing in verse 4. Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. So before Jeremiah was basically structured, right? Because you see the process of the baby forming inside of the womb of the mom. Before that happened, because the spirit that enters the baby, right? The baby's not alive until the spirit enters it, but the spirit that enters it comes from the spirit world. So the Lord already knew the spirit of Jeremiah, which he would put into that body, that vessel, and he had already set him up that in that time he would basically grow to be a prophet. That would be his role. That's the reason the Lord sent him down. So the Lord said, I already knew thee, right? I knew who you were already, and I sanctified you and sent you down there. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, so before you were born, I sanctified thee. I separated you and appointed you for this role, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. So Jeremiah's job, his role in that lifetime, his purpose, you could say, would be to prophesy, not only unto Israel, but also unto the nations concerning, you know, what they would have to, or what the Lord's message to or against them was, which he did. Then said I, so Jeremiah is receiving this message, more than likely through a vision from the Lord. But at this point, he's a young boy, right? He's a youth. So he responds, then said I, Lord God, Yahweh, Behold, I cannot speak, for I am a child. Now, when he said, I cannot speak, it doesn't mean that Jeremiah was like he had his mouth was mute or anything like that. But he's saying, I can't bear this responsibility, because Jeremiah knew what a prophet was. There were prophets around his time, right? You had Zephaniah, right? You had the prophets that were before. You had Habakkuk. You had Isaiah, right? Hosea. So he knew about the prophets, and in his writings he mentioned the prophets that have been before him. So he knew what the job was like. He knew what it entailed, and that's why he was telling the Lord, like, I can't do this. I'm just a child, right? More than likely, majority of the other prophets that he witnessed or heard, they were much older. So he's like, yo, I'm I'm a little boy. Like, who's gonna listen to me? But the Lord Yahweh said unto me, say not, I am a child, for thou shalt go to all that I shall send thee, and whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. So don't tell me that you're a child, because you're still gonna do this job that I have for you. And the reason the Lord said that is because in the flesh, Jeremiah was a child, but his spirit was that of a prophet. So he was designed to do this. Okay, and age wasn't going to stop that. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Lord. So don't fear their response. Don't fear the looks they give you. Don't fear the condescending speech, or even threats, because whatever they're gonna bring against you, I'll deliver you from it. Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth, and the Lord Yahweh said unto me, behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. So once again, as he's getting this vision here, more than likely this is like an angel in the vision that actually might have touched him, right? And that represented him being basically sanctified to be able to go and speak the words of the Lord. Similar to how Isaiah mentioned that there was an angel that took the live coal and put it on his mouth, and then basically his mouth was cleansed and he was able to go and teach the word of the Lord. Now, it wasn't in a physical sense, because that it would have burned him. Right? Verse 10, see, I have this day set thee over the nations, i.e. the Lord has appointed him and given him authority, as it says, over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. And this represented authority, right? So the Lord is saying, I've given you authority. I've given you jurisdiction. I've co-signed this message that you can go and speak in full power and authority and prophesy concerning them, or concerning the things that I have said against them. All right. Doesn't mean necessarily that Jeremiah had the power of like a king per se. Okay. But this is the Lord saying, I've ordained you and set you up. Verse 11, moreover, and when you think about like throwing down or to destroy or to build or to plant, the things that he would prophesy, whether negative or positive, would come to pass, right? So it's almost like, if you were to prophesy the downfall of a nation, the Lord is like, from the perspective of the outside looking in, it's almost as though the Lord has given him the authority to be able to speak into existence their destruction, right, or their downfall, which is why the Lord mentioned he has set him up to throw down and to build and to plant, really through the words that he would speak. Verse 11, moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me. So, when it says moreover, it's like in addition, right? Or at some point in the future, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Jeremiah, what seest thou? And I said, I see a rod of an almond tree. Then said the Lord unto me, thou hast well seen, for I will hasten my word to perform it. So, he sees this branch, branch of an almond tree, and then the Lord is telling him basically, what you're seeing, is just a representation, even though you may not understand the correlation. I'm showing you this because I'm getting ready to perform the things that I'm going to tell you, right? My word that I've been speaking against Israel for generations, and I'm going to hasten to perform it. I'm going to make sure it happens. And the word of the Lord Yahweh came on to me the second time, saying, What seest thou? And I said, I see a seething pot. Now, a seething pot is like a pot or a cauldron or, whatnot, that it may have stew or broil and it's like boiling, right? And the face thereof is toward the north. Now, what this means is, think of like a pot that is boiling and tilted, right? Tilted in the sense that it's tilted in a way where if the contents were to pour out, they will pour out the opposite of the north, meaning south. So when it says the face thereof is toward the south, meaning the part of the pot that's lifted up is facing the north. And if you were to tilt a pot that way, the contents will pour out in the south, right? So let me just get a visual here of a tilted pot of, let's just say, water. There you go. Here's an example. This is also another example. So when it says the face thereof is toward the north, this would be the face, the part that's lifted up. So when you tilt it this way, it's going to pour out the opposite way, right? Easier to explain in visuals than in words. And that was symbolic, right? Because as it says, then the Lord said unto me, out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. And this evil that the Lord was speaking about was the Neo-Babylonian Empire that he was setting up to rise up into power and to come against Jerusalem or come against Judah. Because, like I mentioned, as Jeremiah is beginning his ministry and all this, the Lord is having Nabopolassar, he's having Cyaxares, which is the king of the Medes. He's having them, band together. He's having the Nabopolassar, being ruler over Babylon, revolt against the Assyrian Empire, and then start to basically amass that that power and gain traction to the point where they completely overthrow the Assyrian Empire, bringing them to the doorstep of Judah or of Israel. So the Lord, before that happens, is already telling Jeremiah, well, this thing you're seeing is because I'm about to do this. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, saith the Lord, and they shall come, and they shall set everyone his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem. And this is representing the armies, right? The armies would come, and they would, when they set their throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, meaning they would lay siege to Jerusalem. Your throne is where you sit. When you actually look at the way a siege plays out, the king or the ruler of the nation that is laying siege to another nation, they have provisions, they have tents, they have all of that, and they wait. It's their soldiers that are out there surrounding the city and making sure everything is cut off and nothing comes in or goes out. But a siege is really a wait. And as the nation starts to weaken, then you try to penetrate through their walls. You try to scale their walls after you've cut them off and starved them out for a bit. That's why most sieges lasted a long time, like a year or some months, depending on how many resources or how fortified the side that was being besieged was. So it says here, and against the walls thereof round about, and against all the cities of Judah. And I will utter my judgments against them, touching all their wickedness, who have forsaken me. Because as even the prophets before Jeremiah prophesied, there was a lot of corruption, a lot of idolatry, a lot of wickedness, a lot of bloodshed that was going on amongst Israel, which led to the northern kingdom being deported and the southern kingdom having impending judgment that was weighing above them. It says here, and have burned incense unto other gods and worshipped the works of their own hands, which are idols. Thou therefore gird up thy loins, arise, and speak unto them all that I command thee. Be not dismayed at their faces, lest I confound thee before them. So don't be don't be weakened, don't be afraid, because of their disbelief or their incredulity, or else I'm actually gonna have you get confounded. I'm gonna have you look foolish before them. Okay, so when you go out there, be bold and have faith that I'm with you, and as long as you do that, I will be with you. Verse 18, for behold, I have made thee this day a defenced city, and an iron pillar, and brazen walls against the whole land. So the Lord is saying, I've basically fortified you. I've strengthened you. I've girded you up. I've made you indestructible, right? You're like a fortress, like a iron pillar, right? A fortress whose foundations is made of iron pillars and walls made of brass, against the kings of Judah and against the princes thereof, against the priests thereof, and against the people of the land, because they would all come against Jeremiah for the things that he would prophesy concerning them. But the Lord said, don't worry, because no matter what they say or do, they cannot overcome you, as I've likened you unto this defense city. And they shall fight against thee. So they're going to come against them. And as we read, we'll see the things that Jeremiah had to suffer at their hands for prophesying the word of the Lord, to the point where he didn't even want to speak it anymore. But such is the way of a prophet. You don't really have a choice in the matter. But they shall not prevail against thee, for I am with thee, saith the Lord Yahweh, to deliver thee. Okay. And thus we begin the journey of Jeremiah, right, in his ministry from a youth, from a boy, up until the point of the destruction of Jerusalem. So as we went through, right, this was the background of Jeremiah, right, the word of the Lord coming to him, telling him, hey, I'm about to set you up, and just exhorting him, right, to be courageous. For one, the Lord is brewing up some evil, but he needs you to go and prophesy to these people. And no matter what they say or do, don't worry about it, because the Lord got your back. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.